This may sound just a little bit silly, but sometimes you need to take a break from taking a break. In other words, you're doing nothing, you're letting your mind just go at ease and free thinking, and that's a good thing to do. I mean, just let the cobwebs blow out, so to speak. Absolutely, positively, nothing wrong with that. But if you are doing that all the time, consistently, that in and of itself, in my opinion, can be a problem. So there are a lot of times where I just need to do something. I need to be busy. I want to get on the computer and read, and I want to study, and I want to make videos, or maybe I want to go out to eat with my wife, so we just take a break and we go do things from taking a break. But that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is when we get too busy or overstimulated, and we have, I think I've got, let me check my notes here. I've got 6 of these things we're going to talk about, and we're applying these primarily to people with autism, Asperger syndrome, high functioning autism, but really, I guess these would apply to just about anybody. So if you're not an Aspie, that's all right. You can listen through this and get some benefit from it. Number 1 is take a break from sensory stimulation. Now, if you are an Aspie, I'm guessing you already know this, but have you ever stopped to think about it? When I think of sensory stimulation, the first thing that comes to my mind is fireworks, and I'm okay with fireworks as long as I don't have to be around them. Watch them from a distance, I mean, like a mile. That's interesting. I think I told you once before that several years ago I was on an airplane, uh, July the 3rd, and was looking out at the fireworks, and it was amazing seeing them way down below me, but going in the middle of a crowd and fireworks, no, I don't like that. That's what I think of excessive stimulation, but also, there's the grocery store, Walmart. Got nothing against Walmart, except I just don't like to go there because of the crowd, because of the noise the crowd makes, because of what is that they're playing, that music they're playing in the background. I don't know, but I don't even know what it is, but to me it's too much stimulation. So, yeah, I take a break from that. And so those are the things we think about when we're talking about stimulation, overstimulating our senses. And some of the more subtle things, we don't think about those things. All right, right this very moment, even as I'm speaking, I'm looking at my computer here, and I'm looking at my screens, and sometimes just looking at these screens here, this will, believe it or not, actually give me migraine headaches. A little bit too much stimuli. And so what I do is I get up and I just walk away. I have to get away from it. But if you stop and think about it, it's not just Walmart and fireworks or these other places, where you have all this noise and lights and whatever. It's just everyday life. Sometimes even like I'm in my cabin here, maybe you're in your house. You got to get away from all that. Take a break and see something different. Now, how do you do that? Well, as I go through every one of these 6 points, and number 6, by the way, is the most obvious, so you still want to hang in there and listen to that. But, the solution to almost all of these, maybe the exception is number 6, but all of these sometimes just get away. What I like to do is I like to take a walk. Now, maybe you can't walk. Maybe you don't like to walk. But I like to walk, particularly at night, because there is a minimum, it depends on where you live, but there's a minimum of sensory stimulation. It's dark out. There are no lights. Well, the stars, that's nice. And maybe there's the moon. That's really nice. Maybe once in a long while, there'll be a vehicle that drives by. That's very rare where I live. And the stimulating noise, what I hear are crickets. Well, we're close enough to an interstate highway that I can sometimes hear the truckers gear braking. But yeah, I like to go out, take a walk, let my mind rest, and get away from all the stimulation. The reason that I say that is for this reason. Those of you with Asperger syndrome, with autism, sometimes that stimuli is there, but you've grown accustomed to it, but it's still having an effect on you. That's just my opinion based upon my life's experience, almost 70 years of being an Aspie. So I'm just sharing with you some of the things that I've learned. Hopefully it'll help you out a little bit. So be conscious that maybe there's stimulation in your life, just lights around your house or whatever. You're not even aware of it, but you need to take a break from it, or maybe you don't need to, but maybe you should. Number two is another one that is very familiar to people with Asperger syndrome and autism, and that is social rest. I don't have to preach you a sermon on this one. You probably already understand that. If you have autism, you know it's very uncomfortable most of the time being around a crowd, unless it's people that you know very intimately. Maybe family members, you're comfortable with them. I recall going to my granddaughter's house. They live up in Michigan somewhere. I don't know. But it was just kind of nice hanging out with people. But if it's another event, like a church event, or maybe the workplace, they're having a picnic or something. I recall back when I actually had a job, they did that. That was a waste of time. I mean, I just didn't enjoy it. The other place I worked, they had a Christmas gathering. I just didn't show up. I knew I'd be miserable. I knew I'd be uncomfortable. I knew I'd be sitting there all by myself. You go to church somewhere, they have their church dinners or whatever, pitch-in dinners, and somebody makes the cookies. And okay, I might go and eat and then go find myself a corner to sit in. But I want to get away from, those social experiences the most I can. But again, let's make the same point. A lot of times we have that social pressure and we're not even aware of it because people around us all the time. You can't get away from people, right? Telephone, they calling you. Hopefully it's not a bill collector, but people call you, talk. Nothing wrong with that. We want to be friendly. We want to be cordial. We have neighbors, right? You want to be nice to your neighbors. I hope you do. And be friendly to them. But to the average neurotypical person, that's not something they need to get rest from. In fact, a lot of people actually find rest in being social. But those of us with Asperger syndrome, with autism, that can be extremely stressful. So we want to get away from that. And we know how to do that. We're really good at getting away from those things because we've had an entire lifetime of experience knowing how to get away from it. But sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, we don't even realize the stress is there because people are around us all the time, even watching a movie, watching television. You ever watched a movie with no people in it? I'm sure there's one out there somewhere. I mean, cartoon characters, that doesn't count. But a movie, and it's all just 2 hours of nature. No narration, no nothing, there's just no people whatsoever. And it's not possible because people had to make the movie, right? And whatever you're watching it on, that medium was made by people. So you just can't get away from people. And sometimes we forget that there is maybe very subtle, but that social pressure is still there. Let's take a break. Let's get away from it. And again, for me, that's taking a walk. Number three is what I would call mind rest or brain rest, however you want to think of it. The mind and the brain, not really the same thing. Your mind is a product of the brain. But have you ever been around preschoolers? You know how fun they are? And you may not realize it, but you're kind of taking a break when you're around those little kids because these are not adults who are annoying you, but they're fun. These little guys are fun to hang out with. And they say funny things and they do funny things and you get to play with them and all that. But what if you're around them all the time? Now, there was a time when my wife would babysit, and I've heard this from other people who babysat in their home. They're around these kids, for hours on end. And sometimes they will say something like, I've spent 8 hours talking to no one but 3-year-olds. And they just ready to get out of the house because, well, they need their mind, their brain needs a break from that. So sometimes you need a break from adults, sometimes you need a break from kids. Whatever type of people you're around, sometimes it's the type of person or the age of the person or whatever the personality type. So you need to get a break from those. Give your mind a break. Sometimes a good way to take a break for me is to watch videos on YouTube. To me, that is really cool. I like to listen to music. I have a penchant for oldie music. I love the old beach music. I like Southern gospel music for some strange reason. I like the harmony. Anything with harmony in it, that's the music that I'm into. Unless it's too loud, and it drives me crazy, too, raucous. I'm not into that. But it gives my mind a break. But if you listen to that all the time, you want to get away from that. And I love to read. I was spending time this morning reading a book online about, well, guess what? Autism, right? There's this lady, I can't even remember the name of the book, but this woman who was writing her memoir about raising a little boy. I think his name was Joshua. Sure it was. And from birth throughout his life. Well, I got to age 3. I'm not done with the book yet, but yeah, they gave me a break. I fell asleep reading the book. Going to read the rest of it. Well, what if you're reading all the time? Well, then you need to take a break from reading. Like we said at the very beginning, sometimes you need to take a break from taking a break and get busy and do something. So we need to give our mind, our brain, a rest. We can't be thinking, at least I can't be thinking all the time, focus on something all the time. In fact, I'm really not good at focusing on something for a long period of time because it just drives me crazy. I don't want to go crazy. Some people say I'm crazy anyhow. Number 4 is emotional rest. I think this one probably goes without saying because all of us have our moments in life when things just stress us out, and usually it's people. But you got, as we said earlier, got to be around people. So sometimes we get depressed, sometimes we get anxious, sometimes we get happy. Do you want to be happy all the time? I mean, giddy happy all the time? Sometimes you need to take a break from that. So emotional rest, sometimes just get centered. No extreme on the emotional spectrum, which is kind of a circle spectrum. You don't want to be mad all the time. You don't want to be happy all the time. You don't want to be depressed all the time because it just wears you out. And it just wears you out. It's stressful. So we need to take a break from those things that cause anxiety in our life. Another thing we need to take advantage of, and this is one most people don't think of, and that is creative rest. I don't know about you, but I like being creative. One of the things I love most about making these videos is post-production, where you add in, the graphics and all that, which I don't do anymore because it takes too much time. But that is the fun part of making these videos. I may go back to doing that just because it's fun. It just takes about 2 hours, adds about 2 hours to every video. But you can't do that all the time. I like to write, but you can't write all the time. Sometimes you're going through creative writing, and you hit this thing called writer's block. How do you deal with that? I mean, you're writing and it just doesn't, particularly if you're doing fiction, you're writing and it just doesn't make any sense. Or you're writing nonfiction and you start getting really boring in the way that you're framing whatever it is you're writing, whatever creativity you're into. Could be painting, if you're into painting, and the longer you do it, it seems like your creativity tends to wane. What do? Take a break. Number 5 is this. This is the one that's kind of obvious, so we saved it till last, but that is just giving your body a break. What do you call that? I think the technical term is sleep. Most people I can't say most people, but it seems to me from what I've heard, what I've read, most people with autism, with Asperger syndrome, have a terrible time getting to sleep. To me, a good night's sleep is, I don't think I ever had a good night's sleep. Usually, typically what I'll do is I'll fall asleep and I'll wake up 2 or 3 hours later, and, I said I like to walk at night, so 2 o'clock in the morning, I get up, I put on my reflective vest so people won't run over me, get my flashlight, go out, take a walk. I've got a very, very, very bright flashlight. You can see me from a couple miles. But I go out and take a walk because I can't sleep. So I usually don't have a good night's sleep. I'll sleep for 2 or 3 hours, 2 or 3 times a day. I get the sleep in, it's just not the right kind of sleep. But your body needs to rest. What do you do about that? Well, you set an appointment with a doctor and you go talk to him, which, by the way, I actually did that. Had a doctor's appointment. I forgot when it is. I think it's a week from today. I've got a doctor's appointment and we're going to go in and talk to him about that because I understand, particularly as you get older, and you should start much younger than I am, but I'm pushing 70. But you got to give your body a break. Just have to. Sleep is there for a reason. People brag about how little sleep they get. They're just dumb. I guess what they're doing is they're saying, it's their way of saying they're not lazy. Well, you're actually supposed to be a little bit lazy. That's not something to brag about. That's just saying you don't understand how your body works. So, yeah, you need to take a physical body rest. Get to sleep at night. That one, yeah, it's kind of obvious. So, what am I missing? Comment section, let us know if I'm missing something, but if you have Asperger syndrome, if you have autism, or if you don't. I think these points, these types of rest are something that we need to stop and consider because it makes life just a lot more fun. Speaking of having fun, there are 2 rectangles on the screen. Let's keep on talking together. If you want, all you got to do is click one of those 2 rectangles and the conversation will continue. But if you want to take a break, all you got to do is don't click anything and it'll just end. If not, okay, well then we'll see y'all next time.